afternoon. Welcome to Academic Achievement Committee. We will call this meeting to order. Dr. Baker should be coming, but I want to get started because he's on the road from Ferris. So if there are any public comment, no public comment, so we can start with the agenda. If you want to come forward, Dr. Mitchell. Nice to see you here. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Good evening, Chairperson Davis, Reverend Matias, and Trustee Williams. I am excited about the agenda that we'll present tonight. We will hear from Mr. Harper related to the Instructional Council, and then you'll hear an update related to the strategic plan. You'll hear from some of the leaders who will talk about the great work that they launched in the last couple of weeks. You'll hear a little bit about the West Michigan Construction Institute, which we're excited about as well, and we'll wrap the meeting up. And so right now, what I'd love to do is call Jonathan Harper to the table to share about Instructional Council.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Good afternoon, Ms. Davis, Reverend Matias, and Mrs. Williams. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. I'm just going to go ahead and advance the slides. Hopefully it advances. Let's see here. There we go. Yeah, so as Dr. Mitchell reviewed the agenda, so that's the topics. The first up is the Instructional Council update. I'm pleased to announce that we have convened members of the Instructional Council. We work closely with the GREA and the new GREA president, Mr. Marlowe, and we were in communication with him. Mr. Marlowe sent his 7 designees from the GREA. So you see there's 7 voting members that will represent the GREA, and then of course an alternate if needed. Occasionally we have folks that have to step away or are not able to attend, so we have an alternate there. And then of course our 7 designated central office members. I do want to announce Mrs. Amy Powney and Mrs. Jennifer Brock, who are behind me. They'll be serving as our co-chairs this year. So as you know, each year the responsibility for chairing the committee changes hands from GREA to central office. So this is a central office year, and so Amy and Jen will be chairing the committee, and of course provides subsequent updates to this committee as well. We're excited that the first meeting will take place on September 22nd at GRPS University from 1 to 3. So I would anticipate a written update following that meeting. So
Wonderful. Could you tell me, are all the members new, or are some of them?
They're not all new. Some of them have been on it in years past, and I can't speak to each individual member, but I do know that a number of the members have been on it in years past.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the other question is, will we be seeing some of them attending the academic committee meetings?
Often there's a representative that does come, and of course Amy and or Jen will provide the updates each month. Of course the GRA members are of course welcome to attend the meetings, and I can't speak for them for sure, but they're welcome to attend. Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you're next. Yeah, if you just hit that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
So I was hoping that Rhonda Cribs would join us tonight. What she is doing is compiling some information and will make a report to the larger board. So that is the report for tonight. And so I'll advance to strategic plan update. So as you have been hearing, that everything that we do is connected to our strategic plan and our theory of action. And one of the main focal points is literacy. And so I was so impressed last week when I joined a Zoom call of maybe 70 plus educators. And to find out more about what I'm talking about, I want to call up, come on up, Roseanne Wall and Jill McCulley, who are the leaders of our early literacy initiative, and have them talk a little more about what it is, how last week went, and then answer any questions that you might have.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Davis and board members. It is our pleasure to be here today to talk about this exciting opportunity for all our teachers. I want to start with this picture because, as you can see, our early literacy team, which we will talk a little bit more about, really is a puzzle piece, right, and in alignment with our priority outcomes, strategic themes, and the vision of excellence. You know, we've seen this document before, and I kind of wanted to highlight this to kind of show the alignment between what the mission of our early literacy team is, right? One of the outcomes is increasing literacy proficiency. And as you can see, the mission of our early literacy team is to create supportive literacy environments where all of our K-3 scholars are constantly engaged in meaningful and varied opportunities to read, write, listen, speak, and think about text, right? And to do this, we wanted to start by saying, how do we support all our teachers to support our scholars? And so one of the things that we had to look to is, right, how do we start this work? And so through an early literacy grant, we have two branches of an early literacy grant that we applied for. One of the branches is the Kent ISD provides us with 3 early literacy coaches, Jill being one of them. And as you can see from kind of this diagram, right, our early literacy coaches, Jill, Macaulay, Anna Atkins, and Tracy Carpenter, will work with our principals and then, of course, work with some of our schools and our teachers. But to build capacity within our district and to try to reach all of our teachers, all of our schools, all of our scholars, we created this early literacy team. And so we started first by just sending an invite to all of our teachers, all our K-5 teachers, all our administrators, right? We have a document that kind of has our mission, the vision, what the commitment is, and we were so excited. You can see it says 89, it's actually gone up to 91 now. We have 91 GRPS teachers who have said we are going to step up and join this team and be part of this initiative. We also have 9 principals who are part of it. So we're going to be shoulder to shoulder, learning together, and going forward together in support of our scholars. So our goal is really, with the support of the coaches, this is what our goal is. We want to strengthen literacy instructional practices, right? We're going to provide the training, the coaching, and then job-embedded support to make sure that they have that support in the classroom where it matters. We're going to help the teachers implement those practices in the classroom, right? We're going to provide after-school coaching. And as you can see, our focus is really going to be around the phonological awareness and the phonics as foundational skills, right, needed to be successful fluent readers. And then, of course, looking at ongoing formative assessments and progress monitoring.
Good afternoon, board members. Thank you so much for having us because, as you can tell, we're very, very excited about this. The professional learning that will be happening, again, will be focused around foundational skills. And all teachers and principals on this team will get training in LETTERS, which stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. So just kind of to give you a very large overview of what that looks like, there are 8 units in this training, and this year we're going to tackle 4 of them. In September and October, the team will be learning about the challenge of learning to read and the theory around a lot of the brain research. Unit 2 is going to be around the speech sounds of English and why that's important around the new science of reading research, and we'll work on that November and January. Then in February and March, Unit 3 will be about teaching the beginning of phonics, word recognition and spelling, and then we'll finish the school year in April and May with the advanced decoding, spelling and word recognition. So, as Roseanne had mentioned, the job-embedded support is very, very important here. And so, in order to strengthen the literacy practices of these team members, where we have a variety of brand new teachers, special education teachers, principals, fourth and fifth grade teachers on the team. We want to make sure that they have support that will look like coaching cycles, and then monthly PLCs with our ELA team to go to have collaborative discussions about what we learned and what it looks like in the classroom. There is a bridge to practice after every session or chapter that the teachers will bring into their classroom and work on with their own students. So that's very exciting. And we want to give a shout out. Here we go. This is the exciting part. Here are our team members from Chavez, Aberdeen, Brookside, Campus, CA Frost, and Burton, and some of them are highlighted because those are the principals in those teams. So you can see that some of the principals have stepped up to be a part of the learning with their team. Congress, Coit, Dickinson, East Leonard, GR Montessori, and Ford. Harrison, Kent Hills, our preschool stepped up, and the entire staff at New Lynn will be on the team, as well as Sibley. Also, we have representatives from Shawmut, Sherwood, the entire staff at Stocking, and Southwest. So we sent out invitations to K-5 teachers and staff, to principals, and executive directors in the elementary team. And then we had our first kickoff on August 31st. And it was great. And we had a lot of very good questions coming around from the teachers, which gave us a lot of exciting learning that we know is going to come up. And then finally, tonight, as we speak, the two other coaches, Anna and Tracy, are doing a makeup of that exact same kickoff for those who couldn't attend.
So I kind of, before going into the next steps, I wanted to add, so since we had that first kickoff, news is kind of, word has got around and teachers have, spoken to their colleagues, and we've actually had another 10 join us as well. So they're going to be there today in this second part of the makeup kickoff. So, our next steps are going to be going through these modules of training, learning together, and then working on our PLCs as a district-wide literacy team and looking at the bridge to practice, the practices in the classroom. Because at the end of the day, what we also want to do, and all of our early literacy team members know this commitment, is to open their classroom as classroom labs as well, right? To build that capacity. And so new teachers, administrators, anyone can go and see best practice in action. But at the end result is for all our scholars. We want to see the impact, right? And literacy impact for every single one of our scholars. So we are just extremely excited with the work that is started.
What questions might you have, if anything?
I have a few. I'm excited about this. Oh, good. Okay, so one question I have, just as you're popping up all these names, is have we seen discrepancies? I mean, even in just those slides, we see that like one school has one coach and another school has 9. And so what steps might we take to make sure that schools have a balance of support?
Right, so the slides didn't really capture how many schools each of the coaches had. The slides were highlighted with the principals who were there. So to talk about the coaches' support, right, one of the ways that we are looking at is through this early literacy team, supporting every single member of the team, who in turn could also then be that lead literacy person within their buildings. But the coaches and myself, we've also reached out to all the principals to see what support needs that they need, so that we can also support them, as their needs arise. So it's almost like 3 different layers. So we are supporting new teachers, we're supporting the buildings, reaching out to building leaders to see what supports we need, and then through the early literacy team that goes across the district, we're supporting buildings that way as well.
So there's 2 different in that web. There
Oh,
was
yes.
the 3 literacy coaches, and they support district-wide. But then the teachers that are going to this training, like if there's one building that only has one of those teachers
Okay,
and
I
another
see.
building that has multiple, it seems to me like the buildings that have multiple going to that training would have an advantage because they have.
Right. So our ultimate goal is to get everybody on board. And so it doesn't stop here. So as you mentioned, we've been looking at the slides and we're saying, so how do we get all the other teachers on board as well, right? All the teachers are compensated for their time that goes above and beyond their contractual time, because that is extremely important.
That was another question I had.
Right, that is extremely important. So they are. They have a choice of PD credit or stipend. And so that will be our next step, is to reach out to the schools that have either no representation or have less representation to see how we can bring it into the buildings maybe, so that we can, create that equity across our district.
Wonderful.
To follow up, I to some extent, I mean, I get this. I have always kind of wondered about these building-focused decision-making. Like when it comes to literacy, obviously, we're concerned about the entire district, not just the schools that choose, but it sounds like there's other things that can be happening in other places too, right? That other than this, so maybe people are choosing to do that. But it has always kind of, I do often hear that they're doing this at one school, but not at this other school. And then we ask that question in here, and it's like, well, that's because it's the building choice. And we're seeing this as like, let's say this is a solution to our 3rd grade reading problem, district-wide, which is district-wide. So I don't know. I think that's just something I've always wondered about, is these kind of building choices, and at what level do the interventions that we're bringing in address the district-wide, even for buildings that make other choices. But I do understand that perhaps a building can make another choice and it's successful. Do you get my question, or am I being?
It makes sense. It makes sense. So across the district, the cross-cutting element that we do think is going to build capacity and support scholars and educators is the element that you talked about, and then that after-school piece is the extra. It's the extra, and we hope, given the successes that we'll have in this cohort, that we can have even more folks joining that. But it is beyond contractual hours. It is after school. And so in some ways, it's the cherry on the top. But we're also looping back some of the learnings and findings from that and pushing it into the schools through the coaches and the conversation. So we get your point.
Yeah, and it's not just extended to this one issue. It's other times this comes up. It's always like, well, I don't know. It's just like,
You want to make sure good practices are being spread throughout the district, and it's not just a choice to engage in it, but we're pushing in where we need to. It makes sense.
And if the data shows, once this gets going, that it's growing our students, then we want all of our students to have access to it.
Or an economic choice, meaning that because the school doesn't have the numbers, therefore, realistically, they can't have the teachers because they don't have the numbers to support the number of teachers that they could have in the classroom and so forth. So to Tony's point, I think to some extent, we're still centralized. It's still going through the central office and trickling down to the schools, and then the principals have the hard choice of either choosing to participate because they might have the numbers, or they can afford to give up this for that in order to have a teacher that focuses on this. So I'm hoping that we're wrestling with that, and not just giving them a choice because, well, based on the projection of students that you have, this is your bucket of money. And providing some of these, especially if their numbers, even though they're a smaller group, for example, or smaller school, but they need the tremendous help because the actual number of students that are behind are great. And I'm not sure that we're seeing those kinds of numbers. I would have loved to have seen the Coits and the schools that you have on here really showing us this is the number of students that we have that are proficient at the third grade and are not, and that we're working towards those numbers. The other question that I have was in regards to, and it was nice to see the slide where you have the number of schools that are participating, because, for example, some of the cross-cultural pieces, we have the transitional learning from K to 3 that they're being taught in their native language to some extent, and then our teachers are certified in that. But also, whether we are heading toward a bilingual model more, or transitioning them into English in order for them to mainstream into the English language as they are. And just some of the learning points that we're learning. In Spanish, we say things backwards often to English. And that's a tremendous struggle for students and parents too. They're like, I'm not doing it right. Well, it's because in Spanish, we would say it backwards to how you translate it in English. And that's a literacy issue, among other things. So, and obviously we have, how many different languages spoken and cultures. And so if you can speak to those points too, how we are actually taking that data and research in linguistics and then tying it to these pieces of learning literacy and our ESL numbers. Certainly Southwest is a school that is bilingual, and so they do that, and certainly many other teachers could be coaches to a lot of the things that our teachers are learning. So some of those kinds of things, again, I wrote, Southwest, Burton, Buchanan, those are many other schools that I know of that are transitional in nature. And so how are you working with some of that knowledge and data and research?
Go ahead
Yes,
and answer that.
this is what we'll do. We'll let Roseanne say a little bit, and then what I'll also do is prepare something with Dr. Gunno in the future to address that specifically, but.
Right.
for
No,
start-
I totally, kind of understand, and appreciate those questions. One of the things that I would like to see also, happen as our team gets larger, right? Is work with Dr. Gunnell's office, and I'm looking back because I'm also working with Buchanan and Burton and Chavez and Southeast with the Center for Applied Linguistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then try to see how the two bodies of work can kind of support that, support each other as we bring the work into the schools that do have the transitional bilingual models and the dual language models. But, I'd like to kind of lean on the Center for Applied Linguistics because they're bringing that research in from that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously the number of Hispanic students are very large in our district, and it would make sense for us to understand that.
Right.
Yeah, and I was excited to see Jennifer Hutchinson was on the Southwest bubble, because I would like to hear from her as to how it's fitting with, at that age level, they're full Spanish. So how these trainings are fitting with that. And I wish there were more teachers there that were on that team because her alone in that large building is not very much. But I'm excited to see somebody has jumped up and is willing to take on that role.
Definitely.
So I have a question with regards to that. Is the stipend that's offered, is that something that is set in stone for that, for this program? And I say that because we do know schools like Dickinson have high rates of students who are not meeting expectation for third grade reading. And if that is a way to incentivize those teachers in that particular building and in those buildings where we know, in fact, that we are having large numbers of students not meet the expectation. So is there any type of intentionality around that with regards to those schools where we know the numbers are high? I think last, I felt like it was at least over 50 kids at Dickerson that we heard about that were not meeting that expectation. So where's the intentionality? Because again, Dickerson was one on the list. I think I saw maybe one or two names, but we know that the need there is great. So how are we using this grant to really address where we know our need is greatest?
Go ahead.
Oh, so, go ahead.
Were you going to say something? Let me say something, then you can jump in. I think there are layered concerns, rightfully so, about our early literacy data. And there are other interventions that are happening. This particular presentation was on the one that launched last week. And your concerns about every school getting something makes sense. The after-school cohort is specialized because it's after school and the stipend, et cetera. One of the things that I'm jotting down is how we'll come back and talk specifically about some of the other interventions addressing the different schools that you all are talking about. I think we might be able to even touch on some of that at the retreat that's coming up. So just know that we too are focused on addressing the data that's concerning. And this program does do it in one of the multiple tracks offered, but we can get more specific data on the questions that you're asking about the specific schools. So what were you going to say, if anything?
No,
Go ahead.
I was just going to add to your question. Yes, definitely. So the Early Literacy Grant Fund, right, would also support if Dickinson had K-3 teachers who wanted to stay after school and plan with the coach and look at data, definitely. And we have extended those invitations to school principals and actually the K-3 teams across the district. If they want to work with us and look at data, there is money to compensate them for that.
Questions?
Well, for me, it would be helpful for us to understand the number of our students who are behind, given the data from last year. What are our numbers specifically, like Congress, Coit, Dickerson, GR Ford, GR Montessori, and so forth, really, so that we can compare and contrast. How are we doing? How are we meeting those goals, or not? And what interventions could we come up with, or the board help fund in some way that would help?
And am I correct, Dr. Mitchell, that we're going to have a full board presentation on a lot of that data?
So on the 12th, there is a presentation. One segment of it is follow-up on third grade reading. So you'll see some information there. And I have not seen the full agenda yet. I just know a slice of it will be on that. And I also know a part of this agenda is forecasting future topics. So we can get into some of that. What I want the walk away to be is last week, these particular leaders launched a three-track initiative, and it is targeting early literacy. We do think it's going to be promising. While there was some choice in the after-school component, there are other components that were not choice. And we feel like those weren't choice because it's going to do good things related to the data that you all are concerned about, because we're concerned about that too. So, yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your
I
time.
appreciate you being here. Thank you.
So, in the theme of creating opportunities for scholars, workplace credentials and competencies, Mr. Lewis is going to talk a little bit about West Michigan Construction Institute.
Good evening, Chairperson Davis and distinguished committee members. Just a follow-up to a presentation that was held in the spring on West Michigan Construction Institute. So I'm going to jump right in. What is the West Michigan Construction Institute? It's an opportunity for scholars to participate in work-based learning opportunities, specifically in the commercial trade, not the residential trade. This program is offered to 11th and 12th grade students, and it's not just connected to Grand Rapids Public Schools, but it's also connected back to surrounding districts as well. WMCI also offers a post-secondary opportunity. So if students wanted to finish the program, they can also go into the program from a post-secondary perspective in the area of construction trade. The location is 801 Century, right down by Southwest Middle High, so very convenient there. As it relates to our strategic plan alignment, strategic theme 4, enhanced curriculum and program opportunities. The objective is to expand applied hands-on opportunities that align with scholar interest. And then the initiative is connected back to seeking out work-based learning opportunities that represent a diversity of the scholar population, ensuring that all scholars have an opportunity to experience work-based learning in a career field of their choosing. So the scholars that are participating in this program have all chosen to be a part of this program itself. As it relates to the programming, our scholars that are enrolled will engage in construction career exploration. They'll also be able to create resumes and participate in mock interviewing processes. And then they'll also do some field study and do some job shadowing through field trips. Course modules, there are several course modules starting with basic safety, leading into introduction opportunities in the construction trade, as well as finishing up with first aid and CPR training. There'll also be, and I'll show you on the next slide here, opportunities for credentials as well as certifications. They'll get a certification once completing the program in the National Center for Construction Education and Research, which is a core credential, and then they'll get some certification from WMCI based on the modules that they'll be completing. And then they'll get a certification in OSHA 10, as well as first aid and CPR certification. Just to kind of give you a little substance on our scholars that are participating in the program. If they didn't participate in this program during their 11th and 12th grade years and they chose to participate in a post-secondary program, year 1 would cost them $3,500, year 2 would cost $7,600, and that would include the certifications itself. And I'll share with you on another slide of what the actual cost is for us as a district as they participate in their 11th and 12th grade year. Program structure, there's 2 sessions. Session 1 runs from 7:15 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. Session 2 begins at 9:30 a.m. and concludes at 11:30 a.m. Scholars will attend the program Monday through Thursday, and the first day of the program was August the 29th. So the program is 2 weeks into session. When we look at enrolled scholars, we currently have 13 enrolled. When we ran our pilot last year, we had a pilot of 6 or 7 scholars. So we have expanded. Every scholar enrolled in the program are attending from a base high school, and they will be getting work-based learning course credit. All scholars will receive high school credit, elective credit for their participation in the program and program completion. There's an assigned GRPS staff that will support scheduled observations at the site to ensure that the students are participating in the way that they should be as it relates to the construction program and as it relates to work-based learning criteria. Scholars will be required to participate. They have to do a weekly timesheet. So it'll be somewhat based on a real-world practical experience in the real world. And then transportation will be provided through Dean's Transportation. There was a routing for session 1, and there's a routing for session 2 as well. Some students will be able to ride the Rapid or Self, but there is transportation provided for the program. Program costs, and this kind of relates back to a couple slides earlier. There's a $1,200 cost per scholar per semester. Based on the 13 scholars that we have participating, there's a cost of $15,600 for a semester, and then $31,200 annually for the 13 scholars that are participating. We did bring this to the Finance Committee. Finance Committee approved this in the last committee meeting, and then the funding is allocated through ESSER. Participating schools, last year we had 2 participating schools in the pilot, which were Union High School and Innovation Central. This year it has expanded to Innovation Central, C.A. Frost Middle High, Grand Rapids Montessori Middle High, Grand Rapids Museum High, Grand Rapids University Preparatory Academy, and Southwest Middle High School. So the participation has gone up.
But
So,
when you say that, so those
Yeah.
are the schools where students have chosen from those schools to participate? Or
Those-
are they the schools that the choice has been provided to?
no, so the choice was open to all schools. All counselors took this back to their buildings and offered the choice to the scholars, and then scholars made the decision whether or not they participated. We did want to keep the range to 2 or 3 students per school, just knowing what the cost would be and not knowing whether or not we would have it fully financed at that point.
I just want to make it, because Ottawa wasn't on there, so it
Yeah.
wasn't because Ottawa wasn't offered the
Correct.
opportunity, it's just that no one from Ottawa participated.
That is correct.
And Innovation Central would make some sense since it's already engaged in
Yeah.
the curriculum similar.
Yep, and their curriculum at Innovation Central is mainly geared towards residential. Yeah, yeah.
Is this, it's offered for 11th and 12th grade. Is it a 2-year program, or if they complete it in 11th grade?
Our goal is to get 11th graders into the program, and then they would follow up with that year 2.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's enough classes to fill up
Correct.
2 years? Okay.
Yes, yes.
And then, does this conflict with the ISD program that they have there?
No, there's no conflict. Actually, from what I understand, the ISD program is again residential oriented, and it has a wait list.
Are there any kids from last year that piloted it that were in 11th grade and are doing another year?
So it is my belief that all the kids from last year were 12th graders.
Okay.
And so and last year was the first year for the program itself. And so that was kind of a pilot in itself. Yeah.
Rodney, are there other models of work-based learning that are this?
So what we're trying to do now, since we flushed this out, we're trying to expand this to jobs that kids may have already, and utilize that into a work-based learning opportunity, and complete all the application processes for that to take place. I had a conversation with Mr. Rusi over at Union High School this morning about expanding it, especially for his second shift students that we have, the program where we run second shift, which would give them more opportunities to earn elective credits. Any other questions?
And then just the different options that they have, so electrical, plumbing, what?
All the trades. So you got electrical, plumbing, you have carpentry.
Welding?
Yep, all of the likes. Yep. And so they have labs at the facility, but then they also go out for job shadowing opportunities as well.
One more clarification about this. So, West Michigan Construction Institute created this program and then offered this to area high schools.
Correct.
Okay, and we are choosing to
Participate.
participate, okay.
That is correct.
That's important. The reason I ask is that there are other unions that have asked, why aren't we? And so my answer is that this program exists, they offered a program to us, and we have offered that opportunity to our students, and that we're open to other kinds of opportunities being
That is
open to
correct.
our students, okay?
That is correct.
And do you know when the students get there, do they all take the same training at the same time, or are they kind of putting them in an avenue that fits what their
So
interests are.
Yeah, so they're all working on the same modules as they move through the
Okay.
program.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would love to have some of those kids present to us or have a conversation with us or something at some
Sure.
point. So I would love to hear what their experience is like.
I think we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking to a high schooler at Southwest. I think he's a senior now, who did job shadowing in the summer in the area of electrical and was really psyched. I mean, just was really excited about what he was learning and the opportunity, and obviously, I mean, he knew the income that they were making.
Yeah.
And so it was really exciting to see him excited about that area and then what that would mean for his future. So that was really cool when I went to Southwest to kind of see school open. So that was cool.
The great thing about it is the kid can finish the program, go into the workforce, or go post-secondary to somebody's college or university. So
Yeah.
there's a couple different opportunities for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think you have already illuminated a number of topics that fit in this category in terms of future topics for either one of these sessions or a retreat. And so a couple of the items that I jotted down is certainly hearing from our scholars that are involved in some of the things we talked about tonight, following up with Dr. Gunnell related to literacy in the particular schools that you talked about and across some of the language barriers. For sure, looking at some of the data and the interventions that we are engaging in this year. And then I know one of the things that was mentioned earlier was hearing about academies at Ottawa Hills High School. Those are some of the things that we're thinking about right now. What else might you, is that a dangerous question? What else might you want me to
Yeah, it is.
add to that list? Yes, I will still pose that question and see what we can do. So what else should I be? Yep.
This is something I really like to do because it's come up, there's a few reasons I really want to do this. One is that I won't be on the board after December. So anyway, I really, and post-secondary success has been something I've worked on in lots of ways. There is a new in that we're like planning to measure a new part of our strategic plan, which is actually measuring ourselves on the success of our students once they graduate, not just on graduation. I think that that's really fantastic because, I mean, first of all, that's what a lot of people look at, but we haven't been able to do this before. So, and I know I've talked to Jonathan, and I work through college, and everywhere. But really, I think that it would be great. So we're really just talking about 2 meetings, October and November, and maybe if we decide to have one in December. But to do something on increasing the success of the transitions from high school to post-secondary. I think that the conversation we just had about work-based learning fits into that as well as college, kind of the college prep, and then what we really need as a district. Because I think that if we're going to, I like to see, if we're going to do this, then that means that just like we measure third grade reading and high school SAT scores, we should be measuring eventually the growth in college graduations or the growth of college enrollments or the growth of second year enrollments in college, whatever that is. And so I'd really like to spend some time, what is the district going to do differently as a result of this new strategic vision? So.
Well, and maybe even not just limit it to college. I mean,
Well, yeah,
if we
that's-
have
yeah.
things like the Construction Institute, I'd like to see what those kids are doing.
Right, and that's why I want to make sure, so post-secondary, so we should have measures. So if we are graduating students and they're going to college, then we should be measuring ourselves on whether or not they get to their second year of college or whatever that is. If it's if it's more work-based learning program, if it's more, whatever the next step is.
That fits, I had on here, this would fit into that conversation. Just how many of our graduates are utilizing the Promise Zone? And even into the second
Membership,
year, yeah.
So an update of the number of students that are have successfully gotten into CC and are utilizing
Yeah.
the Promise Zone.
Absolutely.
And I'd even like that data broken up into what schools they came from, which high schools they came from, and
Yep.
Yeah, I think for me, really looking at, comparing ourselves to last year's data and where our students ended up at, because we know that we had some third graders that were held, and then there were some interventions that were done, and to understand what did we do with that and how successful were we, and then looking at the data of where our students ended up, whether they were at grade level or not at every level, so that again we would be able to be strategic about where we invest and interventions that we propose, that you're proposing to us, and also our parents. I think it's critical to, with a lot of these strategies that you're utilizing, it's going to take a lot of parent involvement and knowledge and know-how in order to help their child be successful. So just some of those kinds of things that the schools are doing to make sure that their parents are on board, that they're wanting that success for their child, and however they are choosing to address that.
Absolutely. It makes sense what you're saying. Just highlighting that we understand that families are strong partners in our student success. So how are we offering programming that helps them, supports them in helping their students academically, socially, and emotionally, reaching out to our graduates to learn what we did that assisted them in being strong college students, talking to them or their proxies about where they landed, how they're using the certifications and credentials. These are some of the conversations that we've been having too, and so being able to report that back out to you makes sense. Yep, good stuff. And we'll do it in a time, hopefully, in which you can,
Thank you.
some of the stuff will linger beyond you, but
Yeah.
yeah, certainly.
The other stuff, just my issues.
Yeah,
As long
and
as long as my issues are covered.
I'm just gonna throw out a couple more that are probably gonna be down the road a bit. But I really wanna get back to the teacher evaluation. What was it, 3 years ago before COVID, we had
Yeah.
like a survey go out, and I
Yeah,
just-
everybody is a lookout and everybody's new.
Yeah. so
Well, not
just,
everybody,
like,
Jelly, yeah.
recircling
You,
back
yeah.
to that teacher evaluation, I know there was a survey or something that happened. And then the other thing I kind of have just been thinking about lately is, productive PLCs, they always have us address the 4 questions of a PLC. What do we want our kids to know? How do we know that they know it? What do we do when they don't? And what do we do when they already do? So what about those kids? I would love a conversation about what we're doing for those kids that have met all the standards at grade level, and how are we making sure that there's equity between our buildings with next steps for those kids.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Or electives at schools that are, for the kids that are passing their
Yeah,
class.
how we're
So the
challenging them.
enrichment,
Yeah.
what does
moving
growth look
forward.
like for kids who get it, have mastered it? That makes sense. I think you all have you just have mapped the rest of the school
There we
year
go.
in terms of meetings. So the team
And
is.
you'll get a new person sitting in that chair in January. so
More
you
or
get to-
different.
So you get to
Yeah.
start all over.
Yeah. Thank you for this.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate this meeting. Lots of good stuff. So, anything else before I adjourn?
That's it.
Okay, meeting
Okay.
adjourned.
Thank you.